Jonestown, the psychology of a group that chose death over doubt. On November 18, 1978, more than 900 people died in a remote settlement hidden deep inside the jungles of Guyana. Men, women, children, entire families. It remains one of the largest losses of American civilian lives in a single event before September 11, 2001. But this story is not just about death. It is about trust, belonging, fear, and a question that still troubles psychologists today. How can ordinary people slowly become trapped in a system where doubt feels more dangerous than obedience? This is the story of Jonestown and the psychology behind one of history's most tragic events. Chapter 1. A Man with a Vision. To understand Jonestown, we must first understand the man who created it. His name was Jim Jones. Born in Indiana in 1931, Jones grew up fascinated by religion, power, and social change. In the 1950s, America was deeply divided by racial segregation. Jim Jones stood out because he openly supported racial equality. His church, known as the People's Temple, welcomed black and white members at a time when many places in America remained separated by race. To many followers, Jones seemed different. He spoke about justice, equality, helping the poor. He organized food programs, assisted elderly people, supported families who felt forgotten by society. For many members, the People's Temple was more than a church. It was a community, a family. And this is where psychology begins to play an important role. Human beings have a deep need to belong. We are social creatures. Being accepted by a group gives us comfort, identity, and purpose. The People's Temple offered all of these things. But groups can also become powerful influences over how people think, act, and make decisions, especially when one person gains complete authority. Over time, Jim Jones changed. He demanded more loyalty, more control, more obedience. Criticism was discouraged. Questions became dangerous. Followers were told that enemies were everywhere. And slowly, the group became isolated from the outside world. Chapter 2. The Move into the Jungle. In the mid-1970s, facing growing criticism and investigations, Jim Jones moved hundreds of followers to Guyana, a small country in South America. There, they built a settlement known as Jonestown. At first, it seemed like a dream, a peaceful community, far from conflict, far from discrimination, far from outside influence. But life in Jonestown was difficult. The jungle was hot, work was exhausting, food was limited, and communication with the outside world became tightly controlled. Psychologists call this isolation. When people are separated from other sources of information, they often become more dependent on the group around them. Imagine hearing only one voice every day, one explanation, one version of reality. Over time, alternative ideas become harder to imagine. Followers listened to long speeches over loudspeakers. They were warned about enemies. They were told the outside world was dangerous. Fear became part of daily life. And fear changes how humans think. When people feel threatened, they often seek safety through trusted leaders, even when those leaders make harmful decisions. Chapter 3. The Power of Group Thinking. One of the most important ideas in psychology is called groupthink. Groupthink happens when the desire for unity becomes stronger than the desire for truth. People stop asking difficult questions. They avoid disagreement. They remain silent, even when something feels wrong. This does not happen overnight. It happens slowly. Step by step, small compromises become larger ones. Doubts are pushed aside, and silence becomes normal. Former members who left the People's Temple later described intense social pressure. People who questioned decisions could be criticized or isolated. Loyalty was rewarded. Doubt was seen as betrayal. This is not unique to Jonestown. History shows similar patterns in many groups, organizations, and movements. Humans often follow the behavior of people around them, especially during uncertain times. Psychologists call this social proof. If everyone else appears to believe something, individuals are more likely to accept it too, even when they have private doubts. This does not mean people are weak. It means people are human, and under certain conditions, human psychology can be influenced in powerful ways. Chapter 4: The Final Day. In November 1978, concerns about conditions in Jonestown led U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan to visit the settlement. Several members asked to leave with him. This increased tensions. As Ryan and others prepared to depart from a nearby airstrip, armed members of the People's Temple attacked. Congressman Ryan and several others were killed. Back in Jonestown, events moved quickly. Historical recordings and investigations show that Jim Jones instructed followers to participate in what he called revolutionary suicide. A flavored drink mixed with poison was prepared. Children died first, then many adults. Some survivors later reported that fear, confusion, pressure, and chaos filled those final moments. Historians and psychologists continue to study exactly what happened. Some people may have acted out of loyalty, others out of fear, others because they believed there was no escape. The final hours of Jonestown remain one of history's most painful examples of how powerful social influence can become. Chapter 5: The Lessons of Jonestown. Jonestown was not created in a single day. It was built through thousands of small decisions. Trust, loyalty, fear, isolation, and the gradual loss of independent thinking. This story reminds us of something important. The human need for belonging is powerful, but healthy communities allow questions. Healthy leaders accept criticism. Healthy groups do not fear doubt. Psychologists often say that asking questions is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. History teaches us that critical thinking matters, diverse opinions matter, open conversations matter. Because when people stop questioning, they can slowly lose sight of reality. And that lesson extends far beyond Jonestown. It applies to organizations, movements, community, and even our own lives. Ending. More than 4 decades have passed since the events at Jonestown. Yet the questions remain. How much influence can a group have over an individual? How does fear change decision-making? And how can ordinary people protect themselves from manipulation? Perhaps the most important lesson is this: no person is completely immune to social influence. Under the right conditions, all humans can be affected by pressure, fear, and the desire to belong. That is why curiosity matters, questions matter, and independent thinking matters. Because history is not only about the past, it is also a guide to understanding ourselves. And understanding ourselves may be the best protection we have against repeating history.